Hello everyone, this is Mrs.S.Pravallika, Assistant Professor, Department of AML, Aditya University. In the today's lecture, we are going to discuss planning and managing Agile testing cycle. So let us start with the today's session. At the end of this lecture, student will be able to explain about planning and managing Agile testing cycle. So firstly, planning Agile testing. In this planning Agile testing, we are having two categories of planning. One is release planning and the second one is sprint planning. So let us see in detail about these two plannings. So first one, release plan. So in this release plan, what is going to happen? We are going to define the overall testing goals first. So what are the testing goals that we are having? We need to define the overall testing goals initially. Second one, decide on test strategy. So manual plus automation. So define on test strategy indicates, so we are having two categories of testing. One is manual and the second one is automation. So we need to decide which type of testing that we need to follow. So we are having manual, we are having automation, we are having both. So we are going to plan according to the test strategy. Identify tools, environments and risks. So we need to identify what type of tools that we are going to use, and as well as we need to identify what category of environment that we need here, as well as we need to identify the potentiality of risk in this release plan. So completely this is regarding the release plan. So the next one is sprint planning. So what happens in the sprint plan? Pick user stories for the sprint. So we need to pick the user stories for the sprint. So user stories are nothing but the user defined stories regarding or else the scenarios regarding one particular aspect of particular product or else a module. Next one, define acceptance criteria for each story. So we need to define the acceptance criteria for each story. So we already know the acceptance criteria. So how it is going to happen and how we are going to work for that particular story. So next one, break down the testing task. So we are going to break down the testing task. So that testing task can be broken down based on unit testing, functional testing, regression testing and performance testing. So these were the categories of testing that we are having. So next one, agree on DOD, definition of done. So what needs to get agreed? So one, if we are completing a feature, that should be completely coded, it should be completely tested, as well as it should be completely accepted. So this is nothing but agree on DOD, definition of done. So feature is complete only if it is coded, tested and accepted. So this is completely regarding the planning of Agile testing. So let us move to the next one, that is managing Agile testing life cycle. So Agile testing life cycle, managing steps. So for this managing, we are having 6 phases. The first phase is understand and plan. So what happens in this understand and plan? So in this understand and plan, we are going to read the user stories and we are going to clarify the doubts. So based on the user stories, we need to get a complete picture. So we need to read the user stories as well as we need to clarify the complete doubts on that particular user stories. Next one, identify test conditions and acceptance test. So we need to identify the testing conditions as well as the acceptance test where we can perform the test. So this is what happens in the understand and plan. Next one, design test. So design test, what happens in the design test is prepare the test cases and scenarios. So we need to prepare the test cases as well as the scenarios that was existing. Write BDD style acceptance test. So BDD represents behavior driven development style. So where what type of tests that we can perform, what type of acceptance that we can perform. So based on given, when and then we are going to perform this BDD style acceptance test. Third one, execute test. So in this execute test, we are going to run the manual test for the new features as well as we are going to run automated regression test continuously. So two types of test cases we are going to perform here. So one is a manual test, that is for the new features, as well as we are going to have an automated regression test which happens continuously. So these were the two set of test cases that we are going to perform. So this is regarding understand and plan, design test and execute test. So let us move to the next one. Fourth one, defect management. So defect management, so we are going to find the defects. So log defects in the backlog. So we need to identify the defects in the backlog and we need to register them. Next one, fix and retest quickly within the sprint. If we have identified any errors, if we have identified any bugs, we need to fix them and as well as we need to retest them quickly within that particular sprint. Next one, regression and continuous testing. So we are having two categories of testing, regression and continuous testing. So integrate the tests into CI/CD pipeline. So we are going to integrate the test cases in the CI/CD pipeline. So regarding them, we are going to have a detailed explanation next. ensure build stability after every change. So we are going to build the stability after every change. Last one, review and retrospective. So regarding review and retrospective, so we are going to have the sprint retrospective, and as well as we are going to have the sprint retrospective. Show tested features in the sprint review, discuss what went well and what can be improved in the sprint retrospective. So this is what happens in review and retrospective. So this one is regarding agile planning as well as managing the agile testing life cycle. So next one, we are going to discuss about agile testing quadrants. So we are having 4 quadrants in the agile testing. So Q1, Q2, Q3 and Q4. So let us see. Let us have some explanation about agile testing quadrants. So Q1. So it is an automatic one which supports the complete team. Q2, automatic and manual, which is a business facing one. Q3, which is a manual one, critic product. And Q4 for the testing, for the tools and automation, it is a technology facing one. So here Q1 and Q1 represents support building the product, whereas Q3 and Q4 is for critic and testing the product. So this was the complete picture of the agile testing quadrants. So we can also see in detail explanation for this. Automatic, we are having unit test, API test, component test and integration test in Q1, whereas in the Q2 we are having functional testing, story test, prototypes and stimulation. In the manual Q3 we are having exploratory, scenario based, alpha beta test and user acceptance test, whereas in the Q4 we are having performance test, load test, security test and quality attributes. So completely these were regarding the agile quadrants. And next one, agile quadrants explanation in the terms of a table representation. So quadrant, where it focuses on types of tests that we can perform for that particular quadrant, as well as manual and automated, and also an example. So Q1 quadrant. So Q1 quadrant, we are focusing on the code quality. So and what type of test we are going to perform is unit test and component test. When coming to the testing strategy, here we are just going with automated test. So example, checking if the login functions correctly or not. So we are going to check whether the login working correctly or not. So in the Q2, we are going to focus on the business rules. So and this business rules, the types of tests we are performing is functional test and acceptance test. So this can be manual or automated. So we can have the test both manual or else an automated one. Place an order as per the requirement. So we are going to place an order as per the requirement. So we can have a manual test or else we can have an automated test. Q3, user experience. So here we are having 3 categories of testing. So there is exploratory, usability, scenarios. So here we are going to have a manual testing. So try different ways of using shopping cart. So we can have or else we can try different ways of using a shopping cart. Q4, non-functional quality. So here we are going to have performance test, security test, loading and scalability test. So this is already an automated one. So test with the 10,000 users, security and scan. As we are going to have the performance, security and load and scalability, we are going to test this through the automation, and we are going to test with the 10,000 users, and as well as we are going to check the security scan here. So this is completely regarding the agile testing quadrants. At the end of this lecture, a student will be able to explain about planning, managing the agile testing cycle. Thank you.